MAR was coming through and was a female, probably grandmother in my life, was insane because you cannot find that information anywhere.
The Mercedes-Benz Interview Lounge.
We got a busy door. That door's opening and closing more today. So many guests. I mean, it reminds me of my dorm in college, like totally busy at all times.
Wow.
I don't know what that means. Anyway, I've never said this before. One of our favorite podcasts, of course, Tommy DiDario is here. Tommy, welcome back to your show. It's good to have you here.
Oh, thank you. Happy to be here with you guys.
Well, and I know you have a lot of podcasts coming up, and also, let's talk for a second about people doing podcasts during strikes, entertainment industry strikes. It's a very tricky thing. Well, now we're seeing light at the end of the tunnel, and some of the people that we love in entertainment business are going back to work. So are you free to interview anyone and everyone now? How's that working for you?
Well, not quite yet. The WGA has reached an agreement. It looks like it's all systems go. They're going to have a vote, I think, in a week and a half, but for all intents and purposes, it's coming to an end.
Good.
That means SAG-AFTRA is up next. They are all meeting. The AMTMP is meeting with the union on Monday, so the conversation will start going. I anticipate that will take a couple weeks, and after that gets resolved, then bookings will be a lot easier.
Right.
Nice.
And keep in mind, with all these strikes going on, that means there will be a lack of content in the near future as well, because they haven't been shooting anything.
Yeah.
So the only ones here for you, us,
Yeah.
our morning show.
It was so
hi.
crazy. Tiffany Haddish was here the other day, and I said to her, "Oh my gosh, you were so great in Haunted Mansion." And she just looked at us, and she's like, "I can't really talk about that, but thank you."
Yeah.
Exactly.
That was all
Yeah.
she could say.
So wild.
Crazy.
I know.
So how many podcasts are you on so far in, I've never said this before.
I think we're on episode 14 coming out next.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So for anyone and everyone out there who wants to do a podcast and interview people and talk to people, have great conversations, what have you learned? What's the commonality between all these people that you're learning now that you're interviewing more than ever?
I think that when you give people the time and space to actually speak, that they'll actually open up, right? I do a lot of red carpet work. It's so quick. It's a couple minutes at a time, and it's very stressful for a lot of people to be in that situation and get out everything they want to get out in a way that is articulate and won't get them canceled, right? I think
Right.
everybody's afraid of saying the wrong thing. So when you give someone the time to actually be able to speak on something, you really get thoughtful, beautiful answers, and people open up. There's this huge theory that everybody's very guarded and private and they don't trust anybody. It's not true. If you give them an environment to talk about the things that matters to them, they will. They will. And that's what's so cool to me. It's getting a different layer of somebody.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, going back to what you're saying about being on the red carpet, they say, okay, you have three minutes with, okay, and then you're done.
Yeah.
And by the time the conversation gets rolling, they have to move. And the same with this show every day. You see all the timers timing down. As a matter of fact, they're telling us that your bid is over. You got to go. Okay.
Bye, guys. See ya.
I mean, you really can't go as deep as you want, but with a podcast, if anyone wants to do a podcast, this is one of the reasons you should. You can actually spend time with people.
Yeah.
And it's lovely. I love it.
And I like being on my couch. They're on their couch. We're having a conversation through Zoom. It's great.
Yeah.
I love it. And the conversations have been really exciting and fun. And every time somebody listens, they say, oh my God, I've literally never heard the person talk about that before, which is the goal.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
So you did a podcast the other day with Tyler Henry. His official title was, I don't want to say clairvoyant, but
Yeah, he's a clairvoyant medium.
And he had a special out during pandemic where he was actually helping families solve crimes that had been committed against their loved ones and helping out investigators who were trying to find out who murdered someone. And he was actually solving a lot of these things. So it's not the same as, hey, do you want to speak to grandma who passed away 3 years ago? I mean, he was actually coming up with meaningful answers that helped a lot of people out. Talk about your time with him without giving too much away, because I want people to listen to the podcast.
He's such an interesting person. So a clairvoyant medium is someone essentially who relays messages from this realm or world we're living in to the next, to the other side, right? So he can communicate back and forth and receives images and sounds and scents. And sometimes things physically take over his body if he's experiencing something that someone on the other side experienced. So he's read for 1 million stars, Kim Kardashian, Sofia Vergara, RuPaul, but he reads for everyday people. That's his bread and butter. He loves reading for you and I. And what I find so interesting is he says that the goal of these readings, they're not to give you peace of mind in the sense of closure. He doesn't believe in that. If you get closure from something, amazing, that's great. What he thinks they do is give you validity, right? And they make you understand, okay, what you just told me makes me feel and know for sure that somebody is still with me. And I know for some this might be a little woo-woo-y, but if you do believe in this sort of thing, he really is one of the best of the best. He's the most sought after medium in the entire world. Like 6,000 people are on a wait list right now.
Wow. Oh my
It's
God.
crazy. It's absolutely crazy. So the things he can share with you are quite remarkable.
So, what was your takeaway from your conversation with him? I mean, did you feel as if this is something you want to dive deeper into? Do you want to go talk to some clairvoyant like him? Or, I mean, do you have things in your past, people who have passed on, that you really need some validity from?
Yeah, so I've never had a reading with Tyler, but I actually have had a reading before. I've had 2 readings before, and truth be told, I never knew how I felt about it. I didn't know, right? And then I did these 2. And I say that because, listen, I'm from the Jersey Shore. You go on the boardwalk, there's these quote-unquote psychics who are like, come here, let me read for you. And they're like, you will find love one day. Oh, thank you, cool,
Yeah.
like, great. No, so that's what's sad about it, is there's a lot of bad apples that spoil it. But there truly are, I believe, gifted people. And I had this one incredible reading where the woman halfway through stopped and said, I have to tell you, I'm getting these letters, M-A-R, M-A-R. Does that mean anything to you? And I said, I can't believe you just said that, because my grandmother, who passed away before I was born, to everybody was known as Grandma Meggs, M-E-G-S. Her last name was Megliola, so her nickname was Meggs. There's no public record anywhere of her name being anything other than that. Her real name is Mary. So the fact that this person knew M-A-R was coming through and was a female, probably grandmother in my life, was insane, because you cannot find that information anywhere. Even when my grandfather passed away a few years ago, online it says he was married to Meg's DiDario. It's not even her real name. So there are things that have given me that moment of, oh my God, how in the world is that possible?
Well, you know, the importance of what they tell you is what makes the difference. For instance, a woman who we used to have on our show a lot, and she was very nice, she told me, you will have a white and blue boat in Florida. And this is years ago. Before I never went to Florida back then. I never was thinking about getting a boat. And then 25 years, maybe 30 years later, I had a white and blue boat in Florida. And we were out on the boat when I was like, oh my God, she told me that 30 years ago. And then I was thinking, who cares? I have a white and blue boat in Florida. What does that mean? I mean, she told me a lot of other stuff, but that's the only thing. I'm like, okay, there was nothing useful there for me. There was nothing that could give me validity behind anything, even though she got that right. I mean, 10 points, whatever.
Well, and what's cool about Tyler is he had Alan Thicke on his show on E! And he said to Alan, you have a serious medical condition and you need to pay attention. You need to go get this checked out. It's going to be a problem for you. And he laughed it off and he said, okay, Dr. Tyler, whatever you say, yeah, I'm going to go do that, mocking him. Well, Alan Thicke died from that medical condition that Tyler saw. So to your point, Elvis, there are things that can be super useful. I mean, listen, it's not, Tyler believes in Western medicine. Like, you have a broken bone, go get it fixed. You need therapy, you need grief counseling, go get it done. But there are things that can be seen that could really help you and maybe even save your life.
Yeah.
Danielle's father passed away several years ago, and he was not only a great father to Danielle and her siblings, but also a great friend of our shows. And we love Roy. Roy's a great guy. Danielle, do you ever want to connect with him, or is it better?
Time.
Okay,
all the time.
Some people feel like I had a great life with him in life. I don't need it. I don't need it anymore. But you would love to have more, right?
I'm not a big person for someone to sit there and read my tarot cards and all that stuff. But to have somebody say, okay, your dad's coming through, and say things that would only make sense to me, and to make me feel like I know he's okay. I know that he's proud of us. I know, you know what I mean? Like, just those little things.
Yeah.
That to me would be the coolest thing ever.
It's such a gift. being like really vulnerable right now. I lost a friend a couple of years ago. She so sadly took her own life, and it was a really hard thing for me to process. When something like that happens, you just don't know what to do.
Yeah.
So I that's when I did a session with a medium, and the exactly what you just said, Danielle, the knowing that she is okay, and that I had family with her watching over her, like that to me is what I needed.
Yeah.
And it helped for me be able to start moving on in a way of feeling like, okay, this all sucked, but I know she's okay. Yeah. And that's a beautiful feeling. And listen, again, it's not for everyone. I'm not coming on here saying everybody needs to do this. Like, to each their own, you know? It's just a really interesting tool to feel more connected to people when you're so badly wanting that.
Yeah.
What about you, Gandhi? What are you thinking?
I think about this stuff all the time, and I have been too chicken to actually do it because there's a part of me that's like, no, I don't believe in this. There's no science behind it. No way. Then I have a very good friend who does the same thing, and when I see and hear some of the things she talks about and she tells other people about their lives, I'm like, oh, well, maybe.
Yeah.
So these two things, my brain is conflicted about where I stand on it.
Yeah.
But it works for people, so maybe I'll have to go get a reading and see how this goes.
Yeah.
But
I think we
6,000
should
people.
all go together. Let's do a group
God.
reading, and we can air all our stuff out together.
You can't handle the truth about
I
me
would
anyway.
love to, like in a dream world, Elvis, you and I just spoke with Dr. Neil deGrasse Tyson. I would love for him to sit down with a psychic medium and see if that medium can read him and what his thoughts are about that. Because he doesn't believe in anything that you can't prove. But this is something that would be fascinating.
See, there's a podcast on iHeart called Soul Sessions with Amanda Rieger Green.
Right.
And they're asking me if I would come on that. Like recently, like our friend Carla Marie did it. Our friend Amy with Bobby Bones did it. And she kind of reads the aura around you and gives you like, just little things about what it's saying about you. And then sometimes somebody comes through. So I think I'm going to do it because I just want to see if Dad comes through. Like, I think it would be so cool. But I've been listening to some of her podcasts and she's pretty cool. So I'm going to see what happens.
By the way, we are here with our friend Tommy DiDario. He's a member of our family, and we're so proud to have him in. And also, you could get a reading from her on her podcast as well, because you're a part of the iHeart family now. Yeah. Tommy's podcast is I've Never Said This Before with Tommy DiDario. And I know you have a piece of sound from this Tyler Henry podcast, and thank you for sharing that with us. But I will tell you, and people are texting in, we did have Tyler Henry on as a guest during pandemic. My takeaway from that, because I saw the special, right, which was mind-blowing, I was worried about him because he is, for lack of a better word, a conduit, right, from that side to this side. And my question to him was like, how does this affect you? Because you're processing a lot of frightening information. Some things, when he was helping out police departments in murder cases, he would only tell the family members what he had seen without telling the camera, right? So obviously there's got to be some emotional draw or pullback. Did he mention anything about how he handles the day-to-day business of being a clairvoyant?
Yeah, he stays up at night quite a lot. I mean, a lot of anxiety. It's heavy. It's tough. You don't just have a reading and then move on and say, I'm going to go about my day. I mean, things stay with you. It's very hard to turn it on and off, especially if you're an empathetic, emotional person like Tyler is. So it takes a toll, and it has taken a toll on his health, but he feels like this is his duty. It's his ability to help people, so that's what he does. But it is difficult to balance his everyday life with this in terms of staying healthy. It is. Yeah. That's the reality of what he does.
I think they have to figure out how to turn it on and off, because I know our friend Dina does this. And I always say, Dina, aren't like people always like yelling at you and coming at you? She goes, yeah, but you have to just learn how to kind of turn it
Right.
off.
Yeah. And
Yeah. If you have a friend who's a clairvoyant, every once in a while they'll look up and go, shut up! You're like, who are you talking to?
and you know
Never
what's,
mind.
You know what's really interesting too? I asked him, do people marry your identity as Tyler, a human being, with being this medium? And is it hard for you? Like, do you feel like people only want that from you? Like, I want to be your friend because I want you to read for me. And it is. I mean, it is. It's hard for him to make meaningful connections in life because everybody seemingly kind of wants that from him, right?
Yeah.
So it's like, how do you be Tyler as the human and not Tyler as the medium? And we talk about that and identity and getting bullied for what he does and all of the things. So it's a different conversation that's not just about what is your process? How do you see spirits? It's not as much about that as what is your true identity with and without this gift, and how has it
Wow.
been in your life balancing it?
I wonder if there's a Yelp for clairvoyance, so you can like skip the ones that are bad.
The good ones
Because
and the
I mean,
bad
Tommy was acknowledged there are bad ones out there, and there are good ones.
Yes.
I want to
Yeah.
skip right
Yeah.
to the good ones.
Absolutely.
All right. So, what sound do you have from the podcast with Tyler Henry?
So this is a really interesting clip. It's if I'm going to ask you guys a question based off this. I don't want to give it away. Let's play it.
High with what I do is leaving somebody better than I found them, with the real true validation that there was something to the experience that was real and tangible. There's a moment in time in every reading when someone leaves as a believer where there's a switch that happens. They come in, they're not sure, they might be skeptical or might be believers, but they just don't know what's going to happen. And then you say something and they make a shift where you can see that they've integrated this. They don't know how they're going to process this information, but they know it's real.
So
There you go.
I find that fascinating. You know, there are a lot of skeptics out there, and they go into these readings and say, okay, if this person doesn't say X, Y, and Z, then it's BS. But on the flip side, they do hear X, Y, and Z, and they say, how in the world? So I'm curious if anyone here has ever had an experience where you did get a reading, or if not a reading, we're talking to somebody who doesn't quite know you super well, because I believe we all have some sort of intuition, and something was said where you thought, oh, there might be forces bigger than me in this world.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. Do you guys remember when we had the ghost photographer in, Julie Rygar?
Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I walked into the room and she got almost teary immediately and said that there are more spirits and forces around me than anyone she's ever encountered, and it must be very difficult and heavy for me and weigh on me constantly.
Wow.
I don't feel that at all.
Right.
She gave me a whole bunch of stones and crystals and all these things to put by my bed because she said, I bet you have a tough time sleeping at night, sleep paralysis. And I do. I have terrible sleep paralysis. And we had never talked about that on the air up until that point. From then, we have spoken about it, but she picked that up immediately, so it made me take a step back and think, what? Also, who's around me? What are they doing?
What do they want?
Why?
What do they
Pick
want?
someone else.
Wow. Interesting. And by the way, does he have any new specials coming out? I would love to see more.
Not right now. There's some stuff he said he can't quite share yet, so I have a feeling there's something up his sleeve. But he does these tours. He's on tour right now, so he reads for massive amounts of people around the country all at once, which is really cool because you can't get your one-on-one appointment. He's all booked up. But if you go see him live, you might be able to get a reading, so it's pretty cool.
There you go. Tommy DiDario, and I've never said this before, great podcast. He's also had our friend Laura Morano on that. She's like my little
Oh, we
sister.
love
Did you know that?
Love her.
Billy,
Great
Billy
new album.
Porter, my big sister, and Jason Derulo, who we love as well. So wherever you get your podcast, especially on the iHeartRadio app, check it out. It's the Elvis Duran Podcast Network available as well. And we're so proud to have Tommy as a member of our family as well. Tommy, thank you for coming on today.
Oh, thank you. I love you guys.
The Mercedes-Benz Interview Lounge.